Whether it's just a quiet hope or a really desperate plea, I think most of us have been there. We find ourselves turning to prayer, especially when life gets tough. But what if we've been thinking about it all wrong? In this explainer, we're going to dive into the source material and explore a totally different perspective on what the power of prayer really is.
All right, so let's just start with a simple question. When is the right time to pray? I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? But as we're about to see, there are two very different answers. And trust me, the difference between them, it changes absolutely everything.
So this slide really lays it all out, the two big approaches. Look at the left column. This is prayer as, the emergency call, the break glass in case of emergency button. This is when we need something huge, healing for someone in the family, help paying the bills, finding a job, heck, even world peace. One of our sources says it perfectly. For a lot of people, the only time to pray is only when we need something from God. But then, look at the right side. This is a totally different view. Prayer as a way of life. It's all about building a relationship, finding peace, and just giving thanks. It's moving away from a transaction and into a real conversation. Okay, so to really get our heads around this shift, we first have to take a look at the world around us, the world that so often pushes us to pray in the first place. And let's be honest, our source material paints a picture of a pretty chaotic time, where a whole lot of people are just searching for some peace. Yeah, the material we're digging into, it doesn't pull any punches. It describes the world we're living in with words like anger, uncertainty, resentment, tragedy, these deep divisions. It's a climate that, as one speaker puts it, makes people nervous about living their life. And you can see why. It's so easy to just feel completely overwhelmed by all of it. And this quote right here, it just nails the problem, doesn't it? We forget about where's the happiness, where's the love, where's the respect. With all that noise, we just forget the good stuff. It really does feel like, as the speaker said, all this other stuff is winning the day. And that feeling, that's the backdrop that leads so many of us to start seeking something more. Which, of course, brings us right back to that central idea. What if we reframe prayer? What if it's not a list of demands, but an ongoing conversation? Something designed to actually build a relationship. So what does that actually look like, making prayer about a relationship? Well, it's about trusting in His will. We all know that line, right? Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is a huge shift. It's not about getting what we want anymore. It's about aligning ourselves with a much bigger plan. And wow, that requires a deep, deep level of trust. Okay, to make this idea a little more concrete, one of the speakers shares this really personal story. He was new at a job and he had this one colleague, Steve, who was just always on his case. He was convinced this new guy had some kind of hidden agenda. So totally frustrated, he goes to an older mentor, and the advice he gets back is, well, it was completely unexpected. And his reaction, it's probably how you or I would feel. He was just like, I'm not praying for Steve. Seriously. I mean, he was shocked. Pray for the person who's causing you all this grief? It sounds impossible, right? This is one of the hardest things, what the source material calls praying for our enemies. But here's the thing. The mentor's advice revealed the real purpose of the prayer. It wasn't about changing Steve. It wasn't about changing the situation at all. The goal was internal. It was a prayer to soften his heart, his own heart. It was all about changing his own perspective. Now that is a massive, massive shift in what prayer is for. This whole idea of a constant connection, it's captured perfectly in a famous verse from 1 Thessalonians. It gets boiled down to just 3 powerful words: unceasingly pray. The point here is that prayer isn't supposed to be stuck in a specific time or place. It's meant to be this accessible, continual state of being. You could be in your car, mowing the lawn, on a golf course. It doesn't matter. Okay, so this slide actually gives us a practical roadmap for how to turn all that anxiety we talked about into peace. It's drawn right from a passage in Philippians. So step 1, try not to be anxious. Easier said than done, I know. Step 2, in everything. And that means everything, not just the big emergencies. Bring your request to God, but, and this is key, do it with thanksgiving. And the result, step 3, is a promise. You receive this peace from God, a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's like a formula for transforming that worry. So what's the actual result of this kind of prayer? What happens? Well, it's the profound power that comes from a simple promise, the promise of being heard. And here it is, this verse from Jeremiah. It's presented as this direct, simple promise.
And notice, it's not a promise that you'll get everything you ask for. It's a promise that you will be listened to. That assurance right there, that's the very foundation of this kind of prayer.
And here we see what that promise actually feels like in the real world. The source material has this incredibly powerful story from another speaker. His wife wakes him up in the middle of the night, having a full-blown panic attack, can't breathe. And in that moment of absolute crisis, he just puts his hand on her and says a quiet prayer to himself. And as he's praying, he says he could literally feel the tension in her body just melt away. And that moment right there, it connects directly back to that promise we just saw from Philippians. That tangible, immediate calm that just melted away her tension, that is the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's not just some nice, poetic phrase. It's a real physical experience, and that story just shows it so powerfully. So this brings us to one final idea. Framing prayer not just as a source of comfort, but as an active, guiding force in our day-to-day lives. One of the speakers talks about getting ready to play his guitar and just looking at the lyrics of the song he was about to play and realizing they were in themselves a perfect prayer. Lead me, Lord. Be my way. Be my life. And lead me, Lord, today. I mean, these simple words, they just perfectly sum up that desire for daily guidance. It goes to show that prayer can be found anywhere, right? Even in a song. And it all boils down to that one simple request, just lead me. And so we're going to end with this question. After exploring this whole shift, from prayer as an emergency button to prayer as a constant conversation, maybe the most important part isn't what we say at all. What if the real power of prayer is found not in asking for things, but in finally getting quiet enough to actually listen?